Oh, okay. So I was trying to think of a good lie, but I couldn't come up with one, so I guess I'll just share my experience. When I got clean, we break different sponsorship families break down the steps in various ways. Some say that, the first three are admitting that you have a problem, and the next ones are cleaning house, and then the last three are maintenance steps. Personally, I think they're all maintenance steps, but I'm going to talk about. So what?
Can't hear.
You can't hear? I can't believe somebody said they can't hear me.
Well, I'm not hearing this stuff.
Okay, it's the acoustics. Anyway, so when I learned how to work the steps, the whole idea behind the way I was taught to work the steps was that all the steps were to be practiced in your daily life every day, not just, say, the last three, which are supposed to be maintenance steps. I was not taught that. I was taught that all the steps apply every day in every aspect of your life. However, I think that as I've been clean longer, I have learned that if I will do 10, 11, and 12, that pretty much handles all the other steps also. Because the reality of it is that the majority of my problems in my life today come from my inability to admit the mistakes that I make on a daily basis, to correct those at the appropriate time. By the way, the 10th step says, promptly admitted it. I ain't got there yet. I'm not going to lie. I'm not always prompt. I do the best I can. Some days that's not good enough, and that's reality. So for me, prompt now, if I have done something that's really screwed up, and you note that I didn't say they did, I did. If it's something I did that's really screwed up, I'm usually pretty good about admitting it promptly. If it's some minuscule thing that I think there's a good imagined slight that I can attach to it that's your fault, it will take me a few days for me to come back to you and make my amends for that. I also believe that the 11th step is, so the 11th step is kind of, for me, a doorway to freedom, because if I turn over what happens in my life, if I'm willing to pray for the guidance of my higher power and accept whatever happens as being the will of my higher power, it relieves me of responsibility for having to micromanage everything. I've talked about this, I'll talk about it now. So I went through the process of applying for a pardon, right? And the great thing about doing that is, had I not worked the steps, I would never have had the necessary tools to do this. Because one of the things that you're required to do is to write down a history of what you did, right? And what your part in it was. So here I am, I've got to sit down and write down what was my part in this. And I can't very well say, well, you left your door unlocked. or you wasn't home, so therefore I was entitled to your shit. That does not work, and they're probably not going to receive that well. So, but one of the things it forced me to do was to look at my fears that I encounter on a daily basis, and most of those fears are based solely on my lack of reliance on a power greater than myself. And that's the truth. Most of the time in my life, when I have fear, uncertainty, insecurity on a daily basis, it's because I don't trust that my higher power's will is going to be what I want. When I practice the 11th step, it relieves that. All right? So I'll stick on those two for a minute, and then I'll get to 12. For me, admitting when I was wrong does a couple of things. Number one, it unburdens me, because I know when I'm wrong. I think all of us know when we've done something to someone else, we've committed an offense against another. And like I said, now granted, there are instances where I have an offense committed against me. How I react to that really is all determined by how well I practice the 10th step. If you wronged me and I get mad about it, but you're an addict, I really shouldn't get mad about it. I don't want to say shouldn't, but I really have no expectation that you're going to behave better than you did. That's unrealistic. That's like thinking the flat tire on my car is just going to magically blow back up. It's not in the nature of addicts to behave properly. That's not in our nature. We learn how to do that, but that's not something that's inherent in us. I don't believe. I've never found it to be so. So, for me, when I can learn to look at what I've done on a daily basis, and it's very important for me at the end of my day to be able to go to bed with a clear conscience. Because I don't have the weight of that. I don't have to carry that burden into my next day. Even if I was wronged by another person, if I can forgive them, if I can remove that burden of self from it, that yes, I came out on the short end of the stick, but I chose to receive it in a proper manner, i.e., they didn't know any better, that's just their nature. Maybe it was just my day for a shit sandwich. You know, I mean, that's being honest, and that's part of living life on life's terms. And it's something we don't talk about as much as I think we should, is that life is not fair. And things happen every day that really are not, quote unquote, fair. And I'm one of the world's worst about it. I want justice. I want justice. No, I don't. The truth is I want mercy, because if I get justice, most of the time I'm screwed. That would be reality. So, for me, it's an action step. It's like, yes, the first time I did a 10th step, I did it on paper. I sat down and wrote it down, and I did that for several years. I did 10th steps on a daily basis. I kept notebooks. I wish I could say I was still a very prolific writer, but I'm not. For the first, say, 5-10 years, I was clean. I was a very prolific writer, and I wrote daily. I had stacks of notebooks where I wrote down sometimes mundane things, sometimes life-shattering events. And then I learned as I got clean longer and I started to get away from that willingness to write, I had to do something in order to maintain that on a daily basis. And part of that was, you know, if I make a list in my head as I go through my day of how I've wronged someone else, or I take a list of my actions and I go ahead and correct them right then, I might not have to write them down at the end of the day, because I already dealt with it and got it off my plate. And so that's what I tried to learn to do, was to practice the principles and to actually utilize them, right? And crazy thing is, it actually does work. I have found that, I'll give you a for example. I run a business. If a customer calls in with a complaint and they come at me with the wrong attitude, I can either A, cop an attitude at the attitude they have and be, you know, dismissive or angry or combative with them and lose a customer. Or I can acknowledge that, you know what, you paid me for a service. It was not what you expected to get. Therefore, I am in the wrong. And I correct my action, I correct my attitude, I correct my response to them. And I do it right then. And I wouldn't know how to do that if I hadn't learned how to do it in these rooms. You know, we go to a meeting, I go to a meeting, and someone there does something that doesn't sit quite right with me. Maybe I need to look at my part in that, and am I having a bad day and I'm just taking out my anger on them? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they have had a life-shattering event that I know nothing about, that they're too afraid to share about, unwilling to share about yet, and it's simply coming out sideways on me. It's on me, not on them. It's on me to correct my action. What someone else does is irrelevant. It really is. It has no bearing on my recovery. I've never seen anywhere in the steps where it says, you need to act right so I can get better. It does not say that. It says that I correct my actions, that we, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, try to practice these principles in all our affairs. That's what it says. It took me a long time to understand that there was a spiritual awakening that had to happen somewhere in there for me to be able to practice these principles in all my affairs. You know, and for me, that was the realization that I received through the 10th step of, I'm wrong a lot on a daily basis. I'm wrong a lot more than I ever thought I was before I got clean. And and I'm more okay with it now. There was a time I could never admit that I was wrong about something. It was just completely foreign that I could be in the wrong about anything, because I was tied to being a victim. And one of the things a 10th step did for me is remove that victimhood. As I am now no longer the victim, a lot of times I'm the perpetrator. You know, that's the reality of it. And when the rare times occur that I am in fact a true victim, I don't have to treat the other person as if they're, you know, something's wrong with them because they did something that maybe they haven't reached the point where they can acknowledge what they've done wrong right now. All right? The 11th step. You know, So when I went through this process of applying for a pardon, basically you relive all this bad things you've done, and for me that takes quite a while. It took me about 2 months to do the paperwork. I was a bad boy. I had a very long list of things I had done wrong, actually done wrong to other people. And the 10-step ties in there because I had to actually look at all that. Now I looked at it when I did my 8th and 9th. And I made amends where I could. There were some people I literally could not make amends to because they would shoot me in the face, actually shoot me in the face if they saw me again. So, got to be a little smart on that one and make amends how you can. But it enabled me to look at what I had done and to write it down and write, I don't want to say, I didn't whitewash it, I didn't gloss over it, but to write a dispassionate, basically like you do in the 4th step. Just an inventory, a basic, this is what I did. This is the factual basis of what I did and how I affected other people. And accept that and be willing to give that to someone that actually has the power to either A, grant what you wish, or B, deny it. And not worry about what the end result would be. And the only way I could do that was by being willing to ask the God of my understanding to let me do their will and to just accept the outcome no matter what it was. And I had a lot of fear going into that. And that's what I kept going back to was I'm going to do the footwork the way I was taught, and the God of my understanding will give me the result that I am supposed to get. May not be the desired result, may not be what I want, but it will be the result that I am supposed to get. Because sometimes we ask for things and we have no clue what we're asking for. We ask for things that we are either A, not ready to receive, or B, don't need in the first place. And the God of my understanding is real good at giving me what I need as opposed to what I want. Because if I had gotten everything I wanted, I probably would have gotten loaded before now. There's no telling. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to go to prison the first time or the second time. And if I had not done that, so someone pointed this out to me the other day, I probably would have gotten killed. I definitely wouldn't have gotten here. There would not have been a high enough level of misery for me to say, I don't want to use dope no more. And also I don't think I would have ever made that transformation from I don't want to use to I want to get better, be a better person, and be okay in my skin. And for me, that's part of what the final 3 steps in our 12 steps do. It helps me to live in my skin. The knowledge I've accrued over the time I've been clean is worthless to me unless I can pass it on to someone else. If I can't help someone else, and that, not to blow my own horn or blow up my sense of ego, but simply to give back what was freely given to me and impart to someone else the knowledge that relieved me of the burden of wanting to use and wanting to be the person with those self-defeating behaviors that kept me on that treadmill of constantly hating myself and trying to inspire others to hate me through, poor behaviors. And that was the truth. That's one of the things I learned about me in this process was that I wanted other people to hate me as much as I hated myself. And in order to reinforce that, it's a vicious cycle. It's a self-enforcing prophecy. I need to act badly enough to you, treat you badly enough so that you will hate me and hopefully get out of arm's length so that you will not find out how badly I perceive myself. It took others looking at me and telling me I was worthy before I ever started to believe it. And even today, I've been clean for quite a while. And I've been clean more than half my life, which makes me feel really old. I actually had hair when I got here. I had a full head of hair. I had really long hair when I got here. But, and so we'll get on to the 10th. I'll get on to the 12th step, right? One of the things that for me about the 12th step that I enjoy is the magic of seeing someone else have a light go on from something you shared with them. And most of the time, this is the craziest thing. I know all kinds of shit about NA and about recovery. I do. I got like this Rolodex back here, highfalutin ideas and great philosophy and stuff that have been passed on to me that I can just spout at random. And it's just amazing to me that a lot of times I can look at somebody and go, you made it through another day without using, in spite of everything that happened. Maybe you can do it again. And that's when the lights go on. It ain't when I tell them about, oh, you know, if you do this and that, and I got to complicate it. It's amazing to me just the simple things we do for others. Sometimes when you just give someone a hug, my first sponsor used to tell me the best thing that an addict had was the power of example. That when someone sees that you can do it, especially if they know you're really screwed up, like me, right? I mean, I know people that have come to me and said, when I saw you could stay clean, I knew I could do it. I knew it would work. If you can do it, I know I can do it. And, you know, and I used to take that as, that dirty bastard, there ain't that much wrong with me. And now I look at it and I go, wow, they got a point. You know, I mean, they're right. It's like, I came in here angry and resentful, and better than now. I mean, come on. Matter of fact, I'm from Macon, right? So I used to lay outside Wendell's bar up here and piss on myself in the gutter because I was so high. And I'm going to come in the rooms and go, what do you mean there's not as much wrong with you as there was me? You know, I mean, they had a point, a very valid point. But I also learned that by watching them, then this is the crazy part. One of the things I really like is that the people that I have tried to help, or maybe just said some words to, and then I see them 4 or 5 years later, and they're still clean, and they're growing and becoming better people. And they say to me, something you said stuck with me, and I'm like, wow, that definitely can't be for me, because I don't do that. I don't help people. I hurt people. I mean, in and of myself, my true nature is to hurt people, not help them, or it was. I've kind of learned to counteract that now. I've gotten pretty good at trying to be loving and open to people. I may not look like it. You know, I know women say they have resting bitch face. I don't know what they call mine, but apparently I look very unapproachable a lot of the time. Like, if you left your keys in your car, I'm taking it. So, but one of the things I was also taught is the important phrase to me in the 12th step is to practice these principles in all our affairs, right? That's where, for me, the rubber meets the road. Because if I'm not doing this in every aspect of my life, I'm really not doing it. If I come in the rooms and in here, I'm Mr. Recovery, the grand poobah of NA, but I go out there and I treat the people around me badly, and I have no time for people that may need to talk to someone, or no time to do something charitable for someone that maybe they'll never even know. I won't get any kudos off of it, which, by the way, is the proper way to do a selfless act of love, is to do it in such a way that they never know you did it for them. If it's done for the proper reason, I don't need to advertise it. There's no spiritual benefit in getting kudos for doing something good for somebody else. Then I'm stroking my ego, right? And the basis of the 12 steps, and the 12th step in particular, is that I give away what was freely given to me. That because I received a gift that is so overwhelming and so powerful and so life-changing, that I should want to freely give you that with no expectation of anything in return. And it's done out of gratitude. And that, for me, is an expression of love for this fellowship and the people in this fellowship, is that I received the kind of love. Me, an unlovable, unemployable, incorrigible ex-con that had nothing to contribute to society. I came in and people loved me. And you know how hard it is to love me when I am an asshole? It's almost impossible. It really is. Because I'll do everything I can to make you hate me. I don't do that anymore, because I don't hate me anymore. And it's a direct result of working the steps. You know, nowadays I have some love for myself. Not as much as I'd like to have. I think it's an ongoing process, and for me that's my whole journey through this program has been to evolve and get better as I go. And by the way, it don't always get easier as you stay clean longer. I did not know this when I got here, thank God. But now the pain hurts worse than it did when I was brand new, because I can actually feel now. I have a conscience now, and when I do something I'm not supposed to do, it actually hurts now. Didn't do that before. The upside is the longer you're clean, the more capable you are of dealing with what comes along with that. You know, it's I don't want to use the word normal. I think I've learned more how to become a functional person, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to be functional. You know, I once told somebody I had to have surgery or something, and I told the doctor, a friend of mine was there with me, and I was going to die. I stabbed myself in the leg, blood's jetting out of my leg, and I was literally going to bleed to death. And they were going to do surgery on me, and one of my friends came in and said, "Would you like me to pray with you?" And I felt apologetic. I almost apologetically said to the doctor, "I need to pray with my friend." And he's like, "No big deal." You know, he's like, "That's normal to me. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably be praying too." And I didn't know just how true that was, but obviously I survived. And I don't feel that way anymore, you know. I have no apologies for what I do or who I am. And I have no problem with being able to say to society at large, you want to know the truth? One of the reasons I got the pardon is because I've been clean as long as I have. And because I've been a part of NA. They even said that in their response to me, and it's like, wow, that was an unexpected gift that I did not come in here and get clean going, I'm gonna get a pardon one day when I got X number of years. They're gonna look at that shit on my thing and go, yeah, he's worthy. You know, I didn't do that. I just didn't want to use anymore. But anyway, I think I rambled all over the place. That's okay. I say what I'm supposed to say, and you hear what you're supposed to hear. And if you don't, well, that really ain't my fault. You know, I have no control. I have no control over that. I simply say whatever comes out of my mouth, and people will hear the message they need to hear. More importantly, I hear the message I need to hear. I think sometimes we overlook that we need to hear us say out of our own mouths what we know to be true about recovery, so that it will reinforce that what we do works or does not work and needs to be changed. So, anyway, that's my spiel. That's all.
Thank you. My name is David. I'm an addict.
Hi, David.
For those of you that are new, welcome home. Welcome to a new and better way of life. And I'm honored and I'm grateful to be a part of this process. I love your guys' convention. I'm from California, so if you're ever in San Diego, my home group is 1111 on a Thursday night at 6 p.m. in the Pacific Beach area. It's 11th step with 11 minutes of meditation in the beginning of the meeting. My clean date is 5/1/89. You don't need to do that, but thank you. I don't believe I'm a dinosaur. I mean, dinosaurs are fucking fossils. Who wants to be a fossil? You know, the gift and beauty of aging is, you know, you get to wear readers and you wake up with pains you never had before, and yet there's this gratitude for being alive, because it wasn't my plan to live this long, and obviously it wasn't God's plan or the higher power of your understanding. And I like that freedom the steps gives us, you know, and I'm trying not to be stuck on the 11th step, but I'm 11th step stuck kind of guy, because that's what Narcotics Anonymous has taught me. But I love the freedom of the 10th step of continuing to take personal inventory and promptly admitting when I'm wrong. And what that has been for this addict is is no longer I can say for my fucked up behavior, I'm just an addict. Because it was a beautiful excuse when I was new. And my sponsor reminded me, it's no longer an excuse for my behavior because you're learning to live another way. And there's a whole bunch of spiritual principles you're going to learn through this process of working steps. And I went in and out for a lot of years, you know. And when I finally started taking some direction in 1989, the first two things my sponsor suggested, and this was a sponsor that was my sponsor since '79, and he just never gave up on me. And he said, start writing every day and start talking to a God of your understanding or a higher power. And of course my response was, one, I have God issues, and two, I have no paper. And so in a kind, loving way, he told me it can be whatever you choose to call loving and greater than yourself. And that was a tough one to believe, that there was something more loving and greater than me. And so it was a process, you know. And in the paper, he walked me to his car, opened up his trunk, and gave me 5 tablets. And I know there's no young people here, because I was going to say a tablet is something we used to write on, you know. And so that was the start, you know. And then all the other things he suggested, I just started doing because I was tired, you know. I had hit a spiritual bottom I had never been without. The only yard I ever walked in my addiction was my backyard. And so it's like I didn't know the stuff like people talked about when I came to meetings. And I was a kid. You know, I was 17 years old when I came into my first meeting. And so NA was pretty scary to me, you know. And yet, you know, I got treated with nothing but love. You know, nothing but love and welcome. Welcome to Narcotics Anonymous. I got clean in Los Angeles, and some believe it started there, and some believe it started on the East Coast, but I believe it started there. Just by the people that I went to meetings with, like you know, our founder and other people, you know, and so nobody never told me work the steps or die, motherfucker. You know, because if I believe I did that to people, I'd have to fucking write about it. And that's just my own thing, you know, because I want to be a person of love, from love, and act in love. And that's what Narcotics Anonymous always treated me with, and that's what I've always truly wanted to treat people with, because I knew in my addiction there was that God of my understanding that always said, don't do it. You know, and that same voice in my addiction is rang true in my addiction that said, don't do it, you know, because I'm not perfect, you know. I didn't come here to learn how to walk on water, but if I appear to walk on water, it's just because I know where the steps are, you know, and that's what Narcotics Anonymous has taught me, because I believe in that process of working steps. I believe in this 10th step. I like going to sleep at night, and I know when I don't sleep at night, that's my fucking meter of I did something fucked up today, you know. And I don't know why I gotta swear so much when I'm in meetings, but I swear like a fucking truck driver. I think it's that like tough image guy shit, you know. And the truth is, I've been in 3 fights in my life, and I've been beat up 3 times. So, a tough guy I am not. You know, but I just want to swear when I'm in a meeting, and it's because when I'm at home, when I'm in society, when I'm around children that aren't my children, when my children, you know, something I had to do with raising my children, because I had noticed, and someone had said, why do you got to swear, you know, and I don't have to. They're just filler words. They're just filler words. You know, and so, you know, with my son, I created a swear jar, and for shit and damn, it cost me $1. For fuck, it would cost me $5. Well, my son got a fat bank account, you know, and so, which is a good thing, because now he's in college, you know, and a gift of recovery, you know, but through the process of promptly admitting when I'm wrong, it gives me that freedom. I don't ever want to feel like I felt when I got fucking clean. You know, that shame, that guilt of being you know, I don't call myself a piece of shit anymore, because that's what my sponsor taught me. Don't talk to yourself that way, because you're not that person. You're not that person you were in your addiction. You know, you've become another person, and we become another person the moment we make that decision to not pick up. That restoration is in process. That loving God is in process, whomever you choose to call it, whatever you choose to call it. It's in process and it's in play, and it happens from our first meeting. I love Narcotics Anonymous because from the very first meeting, you know, it taught me how to meditate, and it teaches me how to pray. And that's what to me is that moment of silence. The moment of silence is an act of meditation. You know, as I've come to understand it, and I can have that understanding, and whatever if you want to just call it a fucking moment of meditation, call it a fucking moment of meditation. But to me, it's about that moment of silence is about Narcotics Anonymous praying me into these rooms, you know, and wanting me to stay in these rooms. Because where I'm from, the moment of silence is for the addict who still suffers in and outside of these rooms. You know, and I have days that I've suffered in recovery because of my actions in some cases. I had no choice on getting stage 3 cancer, going through a year of chemotherapy and radiation. I had no choice in it. But I came to believe it was a gift. When it was happening, not so much it's a fucking gift, you know, but as the process went on, I believe it became a gift because I can freely give back what was so freely given to me of I can go through this, walk with integrity and grace, and give back to you that you can do this and you can stay clean. You know, you can stay clean with all your fears about it, because in my family, nobody survives cancer. My last name goes back to the 11th century, and with that long lineage, there's a bunch of fucked up genes, and unfortunately cancer is one, and it kills us. You know, from my grandparents to my aunts, uncles, all the way down to my 16-year-old nephew. And I'm the only one to this day that has been diagnosed and is still here to talk about it. The gift or the fucking craziness about this, or God of your understanding belief you want to believe about this is, I'm the only addict. You know, I'm the only addict that's still here to talk about it. And I believe that's part of that process of what my purpose in life is about. And my purpose in life is very simple. It's to be here, right now, to share with you. You know, and in the 11th step, you know, we don't talk about, I love our literature, and I'm a big fan of our literature because I believe in that process, you know, and it's written by us, for us. And then I'm going to go off on a lit review tangent here. We're in the process of writing a new book on a daily meditation, because the one we have just for today was a beautiful thing that I got to be a part of that process, because I was tired of reading that other fellowships one day at a time. You know, so when we came out with ours, it was a beautiful process, but we're doing another one. And the beautiful thing is it gives us the opportunity, because we're a worldwide fellowship, we're a young fellowship. We've got lots of young people, and there's new language being spoken in meetings like mindfulness and resonating, you know, and so it's an opportunity for these words to be put in our literature that people are understanding. And mindfulness is actually not a brand new word. It's a marketing word, you know, but it's a very old word. It goes back thousands of years ago, you know, and so it's a beautiful thing to be part of this process because Narcotics Anonymous, it's attraction, not promotion. But if we have something that we can relate to and we can understand, that's a beautiful process. That's a spiritual awakening. When we get to me, it's when I get that, wow, those aha moments, you know? When the first time I didn't want to use and realized I didn't want to use, to me that was a spiritual awakening. You know, when my son was born, that was a spiritual awakening. When I went through my first divorce in recovery, that was a spiritual awakening. When those things that hurt so much but gives me opportunities to practice spiritual principles on a level that I never got to before is a spiritual awakening. And that's just this addict's experience. You know, the 11th step is, you know, it talks about in our 11th step that those who practice prayer and meditation gain emotional balance. What a fucking wonderful quality to suffer from, you know? Emotional balance. Wow. And so I love it. You know, like I said, my home group is 1111. And I actually started this group because of a resentment I copped in my home group. And I don't know, in San Diego, we have 450 something meetings a week, you know, and our region is not that big. Like in the beach area where I live, we have 54 meetings a week. And the longest it takes me to get to one of those 54 meetings is 20 minutes. And that's if I hit every red light. So that just says how many meetings we have. So to want to start a meeting because you cop the resentment, that was kind of old school. That's why many meetings got started, because they say if you like everybody at the meetings you go into, you're not going to enough meetings, you know. And so and I like these little funny quote shit because they're not mine. I just stole them from somebody, you know. It's that when your idea becomes my idea, it's a great idea. That's one of my favorites, you know. But it's what I've heard in Narcotics Anonymous as what comes out of my mouth when it comes to our fellowship. It's what comes out of my mouth. You know, I'm honored that I got to see the evolution of a book being printed, because we just used to have a little white book, you know, and it's got words like groovy in it. You know, so it was a little outdated. So it's like to see new words, you know, in a book come about and all this other literature. Granted, when stuff was happening like this, I was going in and out. And the love of the fellowship, like I said, would welcome me. And like I said, nobody told me to work the steps or die, motherfucker. You know, the harshest thing that I've considered was harsh, you know, was they said, I'm glad you didn't die. You know, in my mind, like, that's kind of fucked up. Why would you tell me that? You know? They told me that because using addicts die. You know? I had a beautiful sponsee this last year. You know, that fucking wanted to try it one more time. You know, beautiful young man, you know, talented, gifted, loving, as we are. You know, addicts are so fucking gifted. You know, and when we put that energy in the right direction, just fucking, the world is ours. And not in a self-obsession, you know, I deserve it kind of way, but it's like it's ours, you know. And it was his, and he would do really well, and then he would fucking use again. You know, he would do the 1, 2, 3 shuffle with him. 1, 2, 3 shuffle. You know, and tried it one more time and he died. You know, and he's not my first sponsee to ever die. He's not my first friend to ever die. You know, but it reminds me, using addicts die. You know, so that's why I tell newcomers, I welcome them and I tell them I'm glad you didn't die. You know, I always open, when I open my mouth, is welcome home, welcome to a new and better way of life. 'Cause that emphasis is so important to me, to make someone feel comfortable. Like, there is another way to live. You know, this whole spiritual awakening stuff when I was new made no sense to me. I mean, I experienced a lot of goony goo goo spiritual shit, as I call it, and I always refer to anything I don't understand as goony goo goo shit, you know. But now my practice, my spiritual practice is very eclectic, you know. I do a lot of things after pray. I do this when I see people, and it has meaning to it, but it also has an eclectic meaning to me. It implies solutions, you know, because as I'm implying solutions to you, I'm implying solutions to me, you know, because I can't keep what I have unless I give it away. You know, I can go on and on about my service resume that goes from group to world, you know, but that is truly giving back and being selfless, and it plays out in all areas of my life, in my community, you know, and work, you know. Although, you know, the work thing, you know, when I became my own boss, you know, it was a beautiful thing as long as everybody did it the way I wanted them to do it, you know. And unfortunately, it again was a learning thing, because I had fired a few really good employees, you know, and then feared, because about that time when that was happening it was when that commercial was out, when that guy fired that guy and then he walked down the street and got hit by a car. So whenever I let somebody go, I always watched before I crossed the street. You know, just silly shit. You know, we can have silly shit in recovery, because, you know, I believe in this process and I'm very serious about it. My recovery comes first before my children, you know. And because without that, I would not have my 3 beautiful children in my life. I have 3 beautiful children that are adults. They don't have daddy issues, and they're not addicts. So the chains of addiction, like our literature says, has been broken through the power of example. You know, and I'm having a celebration coming up May 1st for my 30 years, and I'm flying my children home. My 3 children from 3 different mothers. You know, I'm flying them home along with, you know, I'm feeding 100 of my good friends, and I'd love to invite all of you, but it's just not in my budget. So, you know, again, thank you for being a part of my process. You know, I love Narcotics Anonymous. I love our literature. I love all the steps. You know, I'm not sure which one keeps me clean, as I'm not sure what part of recovery that I do keeps me clean. So I just keep doing them all, because I know what it's like to relapse. Like I said, I went in and out for 12 years, and now I'm coming up on 30 because I haven't stopped. There has not been any complacency. Even in that year that I had to do chemo and radiation, you know, I was still praying every day, reading NA literature every day, meditating every day. Meetings were brought to me into the hospital. I would go to meetings. You know, I was still working steps. I've been through the steps. I'm on my 6th time on the 11th step. So I've done the steps in about every 5 years. And so I'm on my 6th time of the 11th step, and, you know, and I wanted to be done by the time I had 30 with my 12th step, but it wasn't the plan, you know, and I'm okay with that, because I love the 11th step. Like I said, it's my favorite step. I practice it, I teach it, and at my home group 1111, I actually do a guided meditation. And check it out, you can do a guided meditation and stay within the traditions, because I am a traditionalist. I believe in our Narcotics Anonymous. I believe in our language. I do not believe in diluting our fucking message. You know, I personally know of what Jimmy K's practice was, and for those of you that don't know, he was a Vedic, which is a Vedanta practice, and he had a shaman that he spoke to. He actually had taken the 12 steps and 12 traditions when he was handed to him by AA. He took them to this shaman and asked them, "What do you think?" And they were familiar with it, you know, and they said it would be a beautiful thing. And so, you know, I say if it's good enough for Jimmy, it's good enough for me. But it's just one of my practices. And for those of you that don't know, his ashes are actually spread at an ashram in La Crescenta in Los Angeles, and it's a beautiful place to visit. you know. I love Narcotics Anonymous for never giving up on this addict and for always being there and letting me make mistakes and letting me continue to take inventories, you know, to allow me to have a God of my understanding and have a practice of prayer and meditation that works for this addict, you know, and to give back freely what was so freely given to me. You know, as you guys continue to give back to you, I love coming to Georgia. This is my 3rd year coming back and visiting you guys, and I appreciate the welcome. You know, you guys are very warm and very loving. As yet, I experience in other places in the world I've traveled, but something about seeing people again and again, you know, it's like going to your home group every week. You know, for me it is. So thanks for being a part of my process.
Thanks for sharing.